Oh, hey Ruth.
How you doing, boo?
Oh man, just exhausted with life right now.
Yes,
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. And coming back from Woman Evolve,
Yes,
just full.
full.
Okay, long weekend,
Yes,
tired, but we here, and
yes,
we are determined to get these Wisdom and Wonders recordings done, and to show up for everything that God has for us.
absolutely. How y'all doing? Are y'all exhausted? Because I just feel like it's in the atmosphere. I mean, it
Okay.
doesn't stop the joy
Yes.
or the laughter or being able to see the good things.
Yes.
But I'm looking forward to resting, intentional rest
Yes.
this
Oof.
weekend. But we said we were going to let everybody know. We had people asking,
Yes.
how was Wisdom and Wonder, the in-person event? What was
Yes.
that like? And so I wanted us to come back and get in this space and talk
Definitely.
about what that was like. We have 4 panelists:
Yes.
Baby Boomer, Gen X,
Yes.
Xennial,
Yes.
and Gen Z, all sharing what does it look like to build a healthy relationship.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
people say, well, what is Wisdom and Wonder? And so we had to put this thing together to say, let's say it as succinctly as possible to let people know. And so it is multi-generational conversations to continue to allow us to grow
Yes.
individually
Mm-hmm.
and as a community by learning and sharing wisdom with one another. It's a place where we come and we're intentional and ready to engage in a way that is full of respect and honor of each person, curious,
Yes.
safe, and just full of love and a desire to share. And so, when I think about full of love, I think about it from ancestral kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
not like hippie love and
Right.
all of those particular things, but bringing forth experiences um, in such a transparent way that we
Yes.
can learn from one another's lessons and develop strategies to move forward in our life without having to experience the hardships that
Right.
everybody else has been through.
Yes.
And then we can share in a way that was changed, perhaps. Historically, we listen to the baby boomers
Yes.
and technology changes and lifestyle changes and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And then things that just don't change over
Right.
time, like
Right.
respect.
Right.
It doesn't
It
change
doesn't.
over time. Honesty
Oh my
doesn't
goodness.
change over time. Ethics, values, they just don't change over time. And embracing all the ever changing
Right. Oof.
technology. Like Instagram changed yesterday,
Okay.
and I was like, I can't keep up, y'all. I need somebody who this is their thing to help
Right.
me. Work habits, environments, like
Yes.
work from home. Nobody was working from home
Right.
30 years ago.
Right. At all. At
So,
all.
thinking about that difference in travel, right?
Right.
You remember when you used to have to get dressed up for travel? Only business people were traveling.
Yes.
How we learn,
Yes.
like learning
Yes.
now
Different.
on a download or a
Yes.
self-paced or
Yes.
like who you ask
YouTube.
your
Right.
questions to. and just coming in and sharing those places. So that's what Wisdom and Wonder is for everybody that's just wondering, like, what is that?
Yes.
And our first one,
Mm.
we decided to do what does it look like to be in healthy relationship.
Yes.
And we called it good
Yes.
and healthy relationships. And so when we thought about that, Ruth, and we came and said, what are we defining as relationship? We're not talking about just intimacy. We're talking about anything, being
Yes.
in community with another person. So
Right.
be it friends, be it coworkers, be it we're just in the same space,
Right.
be it dating,
Yes.
whatever. What about good and healthy relationships? What do they look like? What did you take away from our full discussion of 4 generations definitions of good and healthy relationships?
Man, I felt like it was so interesting that even though it was different generations, we all had similarities.
Mm-hmm.
We all battle with some of the same struggles. How to communicate, when to talk, when not, when to pause.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the younger generation, myself included, we do a lot of talking. We're not doing a lot of listening. And that's something you've had to work with me on and continuously working with me on. But the more I talk to younger, people in their 20s, in their 30s, I'm like, ooh, this is what they are having to learn. So I think the continuous in the room was, you could see the baby boomers pausing, listening. You could see some of the younger generations hurrying up and trying to speak and not really listening. So I think it's really a space of learn from both sides, all sides, but also pausing and being able to take in what is being said.
Yeah, yeah. So the difference in generational conversations and the way in which we just spoke with one another.
Yes.
Right? Jumping to get in. And I think just from what was shared, thinking about for a lot of people, respect in the relationship and both people being and wanting to be in relationship was important. But I thought it was so interesting that we all thought about honesty very different, and what that meant to be in relationship. And that was brought up just in a way of, when someone's not being honest and they told you several lies, do you want to continue that relationship? Do you want to kind of correct them in that relationship? Do you want to kind of back up a little bit, or do you want to cut it completely off? And all of the varying pieces just were so interesting to me, and just the way in which that value is heightened for people, and not so much for others. And then, I loved kind of thinking about who are we in relationship with and what's missing, and what does it look like to build and maintain a healthy relationship. And so, what nuggets did you walk away with from either building or maintaining a healthy relationship?
Not burning bridges, honoring the season of relationships. I think I'm gonna say me. I thought relationships were continuous. Some aren't. Some are in your life for seasons, for reasons. And grandma used to say that back in the day. People in your life for reasons and seasons. But as we get into in a professional space, it's still true. And knowing that if you burn those bridges, that it could affect you in your professional life. It can affect you in your personal life. So keeping those relationships, keeping those relationships when it comes to asking questions. You might have had a college professor that poured into you, and then once you left college, you no longer talk to them.
That's right.
But the truth is, you should still talk to them.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah. Might have been the season.
That's true. See?
Maybe.
It's true.
Could have been that was the season.
That's true.
And now their time is dedicated to the next set of students.
That's true.
And your time is dedicated to somebody else.
That's true.
So maybe.
That's true. That's true. See?
I think I walked away. The thing that hit me was trying to think into the future. Wow. So seeing the baby boomers position, and one in particular who said, listen, I've been married 2 times.
Okay.
What I'm not looking for is marriage and dating right now. I'm looking to use the relationships that I've built over my lifetime to help the next generation, to introduce the people behind me to people who can make it happen for them, and the intentionality that that's done with. And I've had 70 plus years to make relationships, and I've built some solid ones over time. I don't need them for my work because I'm retired. I don't need them for my life dating because I'm not dating or what have you. But I do need them for the younger people who come and are looking for opportunities, or are looking ways to serve, or are looking for financial assistance or sponsorship, or who do I ask for these kind of things, and really seeing themselves strategically in the place to connect their current foundationally strong relationships with their other personal relationships of the people they're mentoring, and being a catalyst for that. I think about it in my life, but I don't think I had projected what would that look like for me 30 years from
Right.
now.
Right.
And being able to do that, and just thinking about the village. So we had some handouts
Yes.
for people to reflect and leave the space with, and think about who was on their tribal wheel of relationships. If there were any places that were kind of good and didn't need attention, and
Right.
if you wanted to lift up a place and work on this particular relationship, but also thinking about the relationships in your life and which ones do you want to keep and which ones is it time to let go of.
Yeah.
And also, if you're keeping them, are they strong or do they need repairing at this time?
Wow.
And I just think about my relationships over a lifetime.
Mhm.
There's some people you have as childhood friends that they're no longer
Yep.
your close friends. Doesn't mean you can't call on them
Right.
if needed or what
Mhm.
have you, but may not know what's happening in your day to day, may not know what's
Yep.
really going on in your life
Mhm.
and what that looks like. And as you get older, you're kind of adding to,
Mhm.
and so that flow
Right.
of, is it seasonal? Is it continuous? Was it only for a moment?
Right.
Are people moving puzzle pieces around because this person needs me more right now, or
Right.
I need this person more? And just all of the pieces to that were
Yes.
so powerful to think about,
Yes.
and to know we don't have to have it all together
Right.
right now,
Yeah.
but we can work on just a bit.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And it was so good that we literally we didn't even get through all our questions. We only got
No.
through a couple questions, and they wanted to continue. So even
And
getting
we had to cut them off. We were like, we only have this space for this amount of time, y'all.
Yes. So even seeing how eager people were like, let's keep going. Let's, can we talk about this? And even in Q&A having to pause and say,
Yes.
okay, that's it. Because they wanted more. So
Yeah.
knowing that the people wanted more, like, how did you feel about it?
I feel like generational conversations have to happen more intentionally and with transparency.
Yeah.
I think about, we only know what we experience. So if I never go to somebody else's gathering, I only know what happens at my kitchen table
Yeah.
or in my living room.
Wow.
And in order for me to expand what that might look like, I might come from a family. I do come from a family that, we did not sit around and talk about how do you become more financially stable. We did not sit around and talk about um, really good and really bad
Right.
relationships. The way I heard about relationships might be because I heard that somebody was coming over,
Right.
or perhaps somebody did something somebody else didn't like, and they were talking about that and discussing that in that
Right.
way. Or we were getting ready to help somebody. My
Right.
house was full of people that didn't live there, and
Yeah.
coming in and helping people, whether they were staying for a night or a couple of weeks or what
Right.
have you. But we didn't talk about what would it look like to intentionally do these things.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's exposure.
Yeah.
And I have had, for whatever reason, God placed on my heart the desire to go to other people's stuff. I've been to other people's family reunions, same part of the family. I've been to other people's Thanksgiving and Christmas and
Yes.
Easter dinners. I've been to other people's just family functions,
That's
and
good.
even had conversations like, what does your family do? What does
Yeah.
that look like? Because for me growing up, a lot of gatherings meant like a lot of drinking, a lot of cards, a lot
Mhm.
of eating, but
No real conversation.
not, intentional, healthy
Mhm.
conversations. Now, I
That's
would
true.
say we didn't run from them. If somebody brought them up,
Yeah.
we talk
Okay.
about it. But when I think about that space that night, I remember one of the people of the baby boomers generation saying, we don't talk about this.
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't want to,
Right.
it's just that we never
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And so I think that was part of the entire room not wanting to leave, wanting to continue to hear about people's stories, their mistakes, how they
Yeah.
got over it, what was important to them then
Right.
versus what's important to them now,
Yep.
and things that mattered or things they made a big deal about that didn't
Yeah.
matter. Um, and then wanting to know more. You know, we talked about other topics.
Yes.
We talked about coming and having a conversation about how do you talk about finances, talking about marriage, and people thinking like
Yes.
marriage is some fairy tale that everybody that's married is like, it's work.
Okay.
It's a whole job. Okay. Parenting from a multi-generational perspective, parenting, co-parenting, grandparenting, godparenting, all of the
Yes.
village that is needed, and just even being in knowledge. And I think about, you know, the 20-year-olds I know, including the 20-year-old I used to be,
Yeah.
and somehow thinking at 20 I needed to be the expert in the room, and I didn't know
Nothing.
but what I knew.
Yes.
You know,
It's
I only know
true.
what I knew, which at this point in my life is very minuscule.
Yeah.
But I thought I knew everything.
It's true.
I had gone to school, I had taken the test, I had passed what was what, I had good grades, I was smart, but in life I knew nothing.
Right.
And being okay with that,
Yeah.
because we don't create spaces to be okay
Yes.
that I'm not the expert,
It's true.
and that is area to grow and opening ourselves up to help. So
true.
that's how it just made me feel grateful to have the courage to do it. I wasn't sure if anybody would come. I wasn't sure how people would receive it. I wasn't sure if people wanted to hear it, if people wanted to be a part of it, because we invited people to be a part of the conversation. And it wasn't scripted. Nobody came in and had to say this is their opinion.
Right.
So I felt grateful and full to experience that and to continue doing this and to continue doing it with you.
Yes.
And I watched the partnerships of you, Adina, Lou, Sydney,
Yes.
everybody just kind of come together to have the conversations.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to continuing them and would love to hear what topics you all want to hear about. We'll keep recapping. There's nothing like being in person.
Yes.
And being able to fully participate and making sure that people have something to walk away with.
Right.
It was 3 pages, so we don't give like homework.
Right.
But 3 pages to reflect, to think, to process.
Yes.
And say, what's one thing you want to do after you've had time to do that?
Yes.
So.
And definitely, especially, you know, we ended the third quarter, going to the fourth quarter, the last quarter of the year, being intentional about our goals, our aspirations, what we want to do, who we want to be in our lives in this fourth quarter, who we don't, what season we in, you know, what we doing professionally, personally. So I think wisdom and wanted to touch on all of that.
Yes.
And that's the beauty in it. I think it's beautiful. It's great to see so much from so many different generations, to hear so much from so many different generations, and to learn from so many generations. I'm at a space where I'm in a learning. I want to learn. I want to get as much information and as much knowledge as I can. When I was in my 20s, I wasn't in that space. I didn't think, like you said, I was thinking I knew everything. But man, when you get to a different space where you're able to see, hear, and listen, it's different. So that's what wisdom and wonders have done for me in this space.
I think about fourth quarter. We can just kind of leave people with this. I think about fourth quarter is such a turbulent time.
Yes.
There's so much pressure, at least in the United States. I have no clue what it's like in other places of the world. To be in all these activities and holidays and events and stuff. Thanksgiving and, you know, I think about when I was growing up, nobody decorated for Thanksgiving. You had a nice dinner, but now like decorations for Thanksgiving and Halloween before that, whether you even celebrate Halloween or not, and fall, and then Christmas and the expectation of spending money and presents and all of this stuff. And, you know, the weight that it could bring to folks who haven't decided, what do I want? How do I want to celebrate? you know, and for me, I'm a Thanksgiving baby. My birthday is always the
Yes.
week of Thanksgiving. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being able to free myself last year and look at my family and say, I love y'all.
Right.
And I'm going to eat dinner with y'all. And then I'm going to bounce and I'm going to get on a
Be
plane
okay with it.
and
Yeah.
I'm going to go take care of me. I
Yes.
need some peace
Yes.
in the midst of this crazy, chaotic world. And I think about when we have all of those holidays, you get invitations to all the things, and some people don't. And so then they're comparing that and feeling bad about that.
That's true.
And then there's work.
Right.
And then there are people who are trying to like force stuff on your calendar so you can get it done before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think a fourth quarter, if you are not intentional and purposeful,
Yeah.
it can be chaos and depression
It is.
and anxiety
It's so true.
for so many people. And so going into it, what do you want to experience? What are the boundaries you want to set? And what's one thing you can do for each of those? How can you experience the feeling you want to experience? And what's one boundary you can set that feels like it honors you
Right.
in that space?
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So we want to hear from you guys. We want to get you guys feedback. We want to know, how, when, and where, and how. We want feedback from you guys on the next steps on how you guys feel, and give us feedback on your thoughts of wisdom and wonders, because this is something that's not going anywhere. We're going to continue this conversation.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
we'll continue online and in person.
Yes.
So good seeing you all.